What's going on, everyone? So I've talked a lot recently on like kind of sixth man, right, bucket getters, primarily because guys like Malik Monk, Cam Thomas, they're available. I think they make a lot of sense for a team like especially Malik Monk, who the Sacramento Kings just kind of want to get off of. They're just like, here, take him type thing. That I really do think that they're like, if you can get him for essentially free, kind of hard to pass up on that. It's just tricky in how you could go and acquire him, right? Because Sacramento they don't want to take on a player. They want to clear a salary or a roster spot, right? They kind of want to get off of him so that way they can bring in Russell Westbrook. So I think that whole situation is a little tricky. But I do think the Lakers need to at least throw their hat in the ring to try to get a guy like him because I do think he can elevate a lot. But in general, right, I do think the Lakers could do well by getting kind of that bucket getter off the bench, right? Get a guy that can self-create, that isn't so reliant on Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, right? Because you look at kind of this team, like Rui can go and self-create and go get buckets, but he's kind of evolved and adapted into that kind of just, hey, catch and shoot, three-point shot, Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves are creating everything, and then he's going to go. And I don't know if the Lakers have kind of lost sight that Rui Hachimura can just go get you a bucket, which is why I don't hate the idea of like Rui going to the bench. And I've talked about that even in previous years, right? Put Rui off the bench and let him be kind of an offensive engine off the bench. Run some plays for him. Call his number. He's got one of the best middies in all of basketball, right? Like put him on the block. Let him use his advantages. He can slot into either forward spot. You can play him at the four more. I really like the idea of Rui kind of coming off the bench and being that six-man role. It's very possible Jake LaRavia could maybe do that for the Lakers. He's a guy that can self-create, get buckets and stuff. But I also fear that he's going to kind of get, again, relegated to the Rui Hachimura role of being that catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, right? And I think most guys are going to be like that. And then outside of that, like the bench is primarily defensive pieces. Now, Lakers have a ton of scoring. They have a ton of, primarily in the starting unit, that kind of front end scoring. But as you start to go down after Jake LaRavia, right, it really starts to dip lower and lower as far as like scoring wise goes. Dalton Connect's probably the next guy in line as far as like a guy that could just go get buckets, but he's very inconsistent unless he finally finds some consistency. But, Summer League didn't really do him any favors. And is he really going to be in the rotation is the other question. So ways to solve that and the bench production offensively would be to bring an Austin Reeves off the bench or bring a Rui Hachimura off the bench or maybe even both off the bench. Get some better balance in the starting unit as far as like defense and offense goes, and then thus getting better balance in the second unit on defense and offense. Problem is, I don't know if the Lakers are going to do that. Are the Lakers actually going to bring Rui off the bench? Are the Lakers actually going to bring Austin Reeves off the bench? Austin Reeves, I think, is far unlikely, even though I think that it makes the most sense. But I don't think that that's going to happen. Rui, I do think that there's like kind of this 50-50 right now. I think it'll really come down to training camp and, does Marcus Smart or Jared Vanderbilt or Jake LaRavia, does somebody kind of emerge as like a better two-way guy, defensively and is still able to knock down shots consistently. Maybe even we get into summer league, maybe even early into the season. Like I could see something where maybe we start with Luka, Austin Reeves, Rui, LeBron, and Ayton. By game 20, all of a sudden it's like, Luka, Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, LeBron James, and DeAndre Ayton, or Jared Vanderbilt, or Jake LaRavia, or someone. Like, who's that guy that's going to rise to the top, essentially, in that three spot? But it kind of feels like 4 of our 5 starters are a lock, and that's Luka, Reeves, Ayton, and LeBron. Again, I would personally like to bring Reeves off the bench, but that's just me. Obviously, if the Lakers make some trades, then that could change, right? If the Lakers end up trading Rui or trade Reeves or trade any of these guys, then maybe that could change. But just going off of what we got, I do think a guy like a Cam Thomas, a Malik Monk, right? Somebody like that, somebody in that mold, in that shape, that could come off the bench, self-create, create a little bit for others. That doesn't really have to necessarily be the playmaker because you do have LeBron, Reeves, and Luka Doncic, but a guy that can make occasional plays, right? That can fill that, gives you another ball handler, gives you a guy that can self-create, guy that can go and score without being reliant on Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, right? So I just think that could be very beneficial to a team that was not good offensively off the bench last year, that really had their struggles, that, has not had a good score, like balanced bench over the last years. You look at the last few years, the bench has kind of been where the defense has been, right? And you're kind of bringing in guys like Gabe Vincent and so on and so forth, like Jared Vanderbilt, right? Bronny James, Jackson Hayes, like these guys that they're not really offensive guys. They're more kind of just like energy, athleticism, defense, even like a Dude Thero, right? Like what is he going to be offensively? Kind of look at this team and it's like all of the starting is where the offense is. And look, starting unit, they might be the number one, 5-man offense in all of basketball. They might average, 100 points a game or whatever between the 5 of them. And it might be just glorious. But you don't want to be so reliant on just your starting unit where it's like, hey, we have basically 5 guys that are doing all of the scoring every night. Because all it takes is 1 or 2 of them to have a bad night offensively, and you might have your struggles. So you need other guys that can step up and come in. Or, if Luka gets the night off, it's like, well, Luka's responsible for like 50 of our 90 points between scoring and assists. Like, what do we do now? Right? Like, and then now you're relying on guys that just maybe not tailored for those roles to step up and that now have to step up and play that role. Now you could argue that for anybody, but like, it would be nice to have that guy that could come off the bench that could be that bucket getter, right? Like a guy like Cam Thomas who can come off the bench, go get you 25 a night and is just an absolute bucket getter, kind of play that Lou Williams role for you, and a guy that can make plays, but you can kind of just let him be him, right? Hey, come out, just when you're in the game, go be you. You got, 25 minutes a night. Go give me 25, right? Like, go give me a bucket a minute. Right? Like that kind of thing. Like, and just be aggressive and let them kind of like settle into that role and hey, go win 6th man of the year. Right? Like getting a guy like that, I do think could do wonders for a team like the Lakers, right? It's not something that I think the Lakers should go and necessarily break the bank for. It's not something that I think is that's the thing the Lakers have to do if they want. Like, no, I still think upgrading the starting 3 spot is probably the number one priority. I think you can make a little bit of an argument of a backup center, right? And then I think getting a bucket getter off the bench could do a long way. But I'm also fine with the Lakers kind of going into the season and kind of gauging and seeing, right? Because again, what if Jake LaRavia is that guy for the Lakers, right? Whether it's off the bench as a bucket getter, like what if he's 15 a night off the bench? Then it's like, okay, you got that guy, right? Or like, what if he's the kind of 3-and-D guy, for the starting unit, that kind of upgraded 3-and-D guy for the Lakers. And now Rui's coming off the bench and giving you his 13 or whatever off the bench. Then it's like, okay, well then you got that, right? Same thing with like a Jared Vanderbilt. Like what if Jared Vanderbilt shooting 36% from 3-point range? I don't expect him as like the bucket getter off the bench, but like, it's like, hey, now he's moving into the starting unit and now Rui's coming off the bench and Rui's giving you 13 or 15. So you might get it naturally. You might get that natural kind of balance just through, how players perform and kind of, rise up, especially if one of our guys can kind of be legit 2-way guys, in a Dude Thero or Jake LaRavia or Jared Vanderbilt or Marcus Smart, right? Where somebody, it's like, okay, this is clearly our best 3-spot guy. So now we're going to move Rui. He's going to be the bench guy. Or, Austin Reeves, sorry, buddy, you got to be the guy to come off the bench, whatever, right? We're trying to win a championship, right? Like, type thing. Maybe you can convince him and his guys. We'll kind of see how that plays out. But to me, I also think, like, if you can find the opportunistic moves, the opportunistic trades, I think you should capitalize on them, right? Like if the Malik Monk situation, if you can get Malik Monk for essentially salary swapping, do it, right? Like it's not like you're going to be worse with Malik Monk. Like he's a guy that would make you better, right? And not just that, but like you might be able to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone type thing where it's like, okay, we can go and bring in a Malik Monk and maybe clear some salary because you probably need a third. Any team that trades from Malik Monk is probably going to need a third team to circumvent that regardless. Because again, the Sacramento Kings want to get off of Malik Monk, clear the roster spot so they can sign Russell Westbrook, right? So they need to essentially just here, somebody take Malik Monk. But I don't really see a team taking on an $18 million or almost $19 million who still has a couple years. Like, oh, hey, we're going to take that guy for the next few. Like, I don't see something like that. But a team like the Nets, let's say, just using them as an example, would they be willing to take a Dalton Connect and maybe like a Devin Carter, right? And then in the process, also take either like a Maxi Kleba or Gabe Vincent. Like, hey, be the third team that circumvents it. Instead of getting a first or whatever, we'll give you two young guys because you're this young rebuilding team for taking on a Maxi Kleba or Gabe Vincent that you might be able to go flip and get a second or something like that out of him. Or you can just buy him out or whatever and he can go to a contender. But you got two young players in the deal. Right? Like you get two young guys that could be foundation pieces for you going forward, right? And then Lakers end up landing a Malik Monk. Sacramento gets to now go sign, they'd have to take on like a Gabe Vincent or whatever, but they also got off of a Devin Carter to where now they have that open roster spot. And then a team like the Nets, they're not just taking on $18 million in long-term salary. They're taking on like $19 million or whatever, but they're getting two young guys in the deal. So it makes sense for a team like them. Maybe you could pull something like that off. And then that, to me, would be an opportunistic trade because it's like, okay, now you're getting a bucket getter off the bench who in a pinch can fill in and be a starter off the bench. On top of that, you clear some roster spots. And on top of that, you also clear some salary in order to fill those roster spots. So now, not only would you be trading for like a Malik Monk, right? And the opportunity that presents itself that isn't really there otherwise. It's just kind of this like random, and again, an opportunistic moment. You'll be able to land a guy on Malik Monk, and then maybe you can convince a DeAnthony Melton, like, hey, Warriors are still dragging their feet. We'll sign you. We got the roster spot, and maybe you can bring in somebody like that because you moved off of Gabe Vincent or whatever, right? Just kind of gives you, well, I guess you get Malik Monk, so you probably don't want to do that, but you get the point, right? Like, you can now go fill in other guys, or Nikola Vucevic gets better, or maybe you're bringing in a Malik Beasley because you lost, a Dalton Connect. It's like, hey, we could use the shooting that Malik Beasley gives us, and then now you have that, right? Like, I do think getting a bucket getter that can come off the bench, again, self-create, ideal. Like, you want a guy that can also play off ball. Right? Malik Monk has shown the ability to do that. Cam Thomas has shown a little bit of the ability, but he's best, like, giving the ball. Both guys are best with the ball in their hands and getting buckets. But, like, ideally, you want a guy that isn't just reliant on, like, I need the ball and that's it. Like, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's basically irrelevant out there, right? You want a guy that can do both to where it's like, hey, Luka and LeBron are going to be on the bench right now. You're coming in and we want you to go get 15 in this, 10-minute stretch, right? But then it's like, hey, if you want to play another 10 minutes, right? Like, you're going to have to play those minutes alongside Luka and LeBron. So we need you to be able to play off ball and be comfortable not having the ball in your hands. Yes, there's still going to be moments where you will, but you need to be able, when Luka has the ball in his hands, you're not just completely taken out of the offense. You're just, so it's not as simple as like, like somebody like a Jordan Clarkson, I don't think would make sense, right? He's inefficient, doesn't play off ball well, right? Like, he's more of like a give him a ball, he needs the volume type thing. But somebody like a Malik Monk who has, played off ball pretty much his entire career, but also played on ball and could be that bucket getter, but he's played alongside De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, guys like that. He's still able to go get 17 a night, right? Like a guy that can catch and shoot and shoot the three ball, a guy, or a Cam Thomas who could go get buckets and stuff, but can he kind of play off ball, play off of Luka, play off of LeBron, catch and shoot and be that bucket getter, right? Like, you got to find somebody like that. Can't just be somebody that's just like he basically, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's useless out there. You need somebody that can kind of do both and balance both. In a perfect world, kind of somebody that can play some defense too, which is where you're hoping like a Jake LaRavia or somebody like that kind of emerges into that, where it's like he can be a defender and he can give you a 15 off the bench, as a bucket getter, right? So again, I don't think it's something that is like a dire pressing need, but it is something that I think if you're the Lakers, you should look into and explore. I think it's something that you at least gauge and see, like, hey, can we land a Malik Monk? Can we land a Cam Thomas? Like these guys that are, kind of in these weird situations where maybe you can kind of step in and be like, hey, we'll take that guy type thing. But Anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you love the idea? Hate the idea? Kind of mix in the middle? Either way, love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.